We had a very positive overall response in terms of the feedback to the TEDx event that we hosted a couple of weeks ago, but quite a few people wanted to know more about the origins of the project, but also more detail about how exactly we would go out about measuring the sustainability impact. So I thought I'd just explain a little bit more about the story of how this project was initiated. It goes back to around 2016 when a group of us were involved with a discussion meeting amongst various farmers and land managers of various scales and descriptions. Some were quite intensive and some were organic, some were large and some were small. And we got into a conversation about how it would be possible for farming systems to respond to the growing interest in moving towards more sustainable practices. And we realised that there was no common way of measuring the impact of whichever farming system we were using. And then that led to a conversation about kind of audit comparisons. And we all found that we were being multiple audited by certifiers, governments and others, very often inputting the same data twice or even 3 times a year, with all the attendant cost and bureaucracy and frustration of that. And yet even after all that complicated, time-consuming work, we didn't feel that we were being well enough informed about the impact of our farming practices. So we thought, well, hang on a minute, we're the farmers and land managers. We know best what we want to know about the sustainable impacts of our farming systems. Why don't we co-evolve a system which would best give us the information that we want to know about the impact of our farming practices on outcomes? That was the start of a process. We formed the Farmers and Land Managers Working Group, and we've met dozens of times since then. Before COVID it was physical, and then of course since COVID it's been mostly by Zoom. But the process of the meetings has resulted in us identifying 10 categories of impacts along with productivity and profitability. And for each of those categories, let's just name a few: soil, water, emissions, energy and resource use, biodiversity, crop and livestock management, social and cultural impacts, etc. We wanted to identify indices and units of measurement, not too many because farmers are busy, which we felt would best reflect the impact of our farming practices. So we had long conversations about each of those categories, and if you take soil, we thought that 3 measurements, total soil carbon or organic matter, plus the infiltration rate of water, the permeability of the soils, and the biodiversity in terms of an earthworm count, would give at least a reasonable indication about the total fertility and quality of the soil. And we repeated that process for each of the 10 categories. And this is of course still a work in progress. There's work to do which we hope will involve more and more organisations. Just to give an example, how do we measure the biodiversity impacts of a farming system? Well, we need help to do that. We need help from all the conservation organisations, and we've had offers already from some of them, not only to identify the best metrics, but also to use maybe citizen engagement to help measure these impacts, like there is the annual butterfly and bird survey, for instance. So we're gradually, we hope, moving towards a set of indicators and units of measurements which could form the basis of a global language for farm sustainability assessment. And this could inform future trade agreements. It could inform every government in the world who wants to reward farmers for public goods, in the case of the United Kingdom, also positive sustainability outcomes. And yes, it could lead to what we are referring to as a Paris Agreement for food, where, for instance, at the COP26 and beyond, the global leaders could agree that all future international trade in food should be informed by their degree to address climate, the products of the farming systems to address climate change, to reverse the biodiversity loss and contribute to other positive outcomes, and not allow, or at least introduce tariffs on foods which fall below certain standards. So there's a huge amount to play for here, and we're very excited that the project is gathering momentum literally day by day.